Welcome to the Blue Collar Builders YouTube channel. My name is Andy, and I wanted to share a story with you all today. I was hanging out with a friend this past weekend, and I told him this story, and he said, "Have you ever written that story down?" And I thought, no, I really haven't. But I think there's some valuable things to learn here about failing. When I was in 11th grade, I was a junior in high school. I think I was in like a calculus class, and it was one of those, whatever the math thing is, see, this is how bad I was at school. Whatever the math thing is where you get like an equation and then there's like 15 steps to solve it. That's what this was. So I'm not sure. I think calculus, but maybe something else. Was basically that. And we had an exam, and it was one question, and you had to basically work out the whole thing and then obviously get to a solution. And it wasn't like if you get the solution wrong, you get the whole thing wrong. It was one of those tests where if you had like 6 or 7 or 8 lines correct, you would get partial credit for doing that portion of the equation properly. And I remember I studied and I studied and I studied, and I even stayed after with the teacher and got some extra help. And on the day of the test, I was feeling really confident. So I went in, took the test, worked out like 15 lines, and turned it in. And I was like, wow, that was easier than I expected. And a couple days later, we get the test back, and I was excited to get it. So I flipped it over, and I look at it, and there's just a big 0 on the top of the page. And I remember being like, holy cow, this is awful. I got a 0 on an exam. And so the teacher was basically like, stay after class and like to talk to you. So I said, okay, sure, I'd love an explanation. And so I stayed after class, and I walked up to him. I said, like, what's going on? I felt like I knew what I was doing. I felt like I had some good clarity on this. And he literally looked at me, and he just goes, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I looked at this a few times, and I tried really hard to give you partial credit, but there was just nothing I could give you partial credit on. And for whatever reason, it's funny now to think about, but I think as a junior in high school, that really left an impression on me. I was never a great student. I was a BC student. I was one of those people who did all their homework and like tried really hard, but for whatever reason, I was not great at taking tests. I was never like somebody who could just show up and get a 98 on a test. That was never me. And I look at that today, step back. For most of my adult life, I kind of always thought like, maybe I'm just not smart. Maybe I am not a good learner.Maybe whatever it is. Maybe I'm just not as smart as most people. And what I realize now is that I just learn I learn way differently than the normal person learns. So the schooling system is great for a lot of people, but what I would suspect is maybe you're watching this, and maybe you have had a similar experience where you weren't very good at school, and you thought, I'm not very smart, or I'm not going to be very successful long term. And what I want to tell you is that you probably just learn things differently than others, and you probably are really smart. You just need to figure out how to learn them. But the thing that I realized today that it has prepared me for is those instances where I didn't get an A+ on a test actually prepared me really well for entrepreneurship. And the reason being is I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to fail. Do I try to fail? Absolutely not. But I'm not afraid to fail, and failing doesn't cripple me and paralyze me to inaction. And so it's really interesting. My wife, very good at school, and it's really interesting. Her and I have completely different risk tolerances, and she and I think we balance each other out really well. But it's really interesting. She was an A student. Naturally, the system worked really well for her, but she struggles with failure. And when she does mess up, it's really difficult for her. When I mess up, I'm just like, oh, well, I got to fix this. And, this is an opportunity to make a really good situation from a bad situation. And so if you were one of those people, maybe you can relate to my story, but failing in entrepreneurship is actually a really great thing, because there's lots of learning to be had. And there's also lots of exploration in entrepreneurship and new territory that you're kind of frontiering. And if you're afraid of failure, you won't go there. And oftentimes the best businesses or the best ideas are found in the face of failure. So I want to share that story. I think it's an interesting story, and I hope it's helpful for you. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.